Hello everyone, Editing Bella here. Before we get into the episode, I just wanted to let you know that I didn't realize this while I was recording, but I was having some issues with my microphone during this episode, and I don't have time to re-record the entire episode, so I hope that's okay. I'm going to figure out what happened with the microphone for future episodes, but just bear with me for this episode since the audio is a little bit weird. I apologize. Hello cats, welcome back to another episode of Chat About That. In this episode, we are going to be talking about Chadwick Boseman and his legacy. I'm going to just skip the intro music and get straight into this episode. On August 28th of this year, he passed away from colon cancer. First of all, I'd like to just say that I was incredibly shocked to hear about Chadwick's passing, and I think a lot of people were. It's just such a terrible loss, and he was so influential and so important to so many people, and I want to talk about his legacy and all of the impact that he had on not just the Black community but on the world. So Chadwick was born on November 29th, 1976. And he was born and raised in South Carolina. And he actually went to Howard University and studied directing there. And then later he took up acting professionally. And when I was watching the Dateline tribute that they did for Chadwick, and I actually learned that he was able to study at the Oxford Midsummer Program of the British American Drama Academy in London. So he was actually able to go to that program because of funds that were raised for him by Denzel Washington, which is really cool. And Denzel helped raise funds for him and a couple of other students so that they were actually able to go to this program, because he was accepted into this program, but him and some of the other students didn't have enough money to pay for the program that they were accepted in. And Felicia Rashad was actually one of his teachers and mentor, and she knew Denzel Washington, and she reached out to him and said, hey, there are all these really talented kids here and they can't afford to go to this program, will you help raise funds? And he said, absolutely. So that was really cool. And he also graduated from New York City's Digital Film Academy, and he lived in Brooklyn during the start of his career, and he worked as a drama instructor at the Schoenberg Junior Scholars Program. And then in 2008, he moved to Los Angeles to pursue his acting career. And his first role was actually in 2003, where he starred in a recurring role on All My Children, and he went on to star in episodes of Law & Order, CSI New York, ER, a couple of other TV shows, and it wasn't until 2008 when he had his first film role, and he played Floyd Little in the film called Express, the Ernie Davis Story. And then in 2012, he was in another film called The Kill Hole, and then in 2013, he had his breakout role, where he played Jackie Robinson in the film 42. And that was the role that, really got him on the map and was just such a breakout role, important role for him. And he received a lot of positive feedback for that role, not just from, critics, but also from the Robinson family. They really loved how he portrayed Jackie in the film, and they were very happy with his performance. And then he went on to star in a couple of other films. And then in 2014, Marvel announced that he would be playing T'Challa, aka Black Panther, in Captain America Civil War, and then he would go on to have his own film starring in Black Panther. And Captain America Civil War came out in 2016. So 2016 was the first on-screen appearance of Black Panther, and this was so important for the Black community and for superhero films. Before I get into talking about Black Panther and all of the importance that film did for the Black community and for superhero films, in 2017, he also played another very important role. He played Thurgood Marshall in the film Marshall. And this was an incredibly important role for Chadwick in an incredibly important movie, because Thurgood Marshall was the first African-American Supreme Court justice. So this story and this role was very important for the Black community and, for Chadwick to be playing such an important figure. And he had previously played Jackie Robinson and then, go on to play Black Panther. So he played three very important figures in the Black community. Now going on to talk about Black Panther. Like I've mentioned in previous podcasts, I am a huge Marvel fan. I want to do an entire episode dedicated just to Marvel films and ranking them all, talking about my favorite ones. And if I had to rank my top 5 favorite films in the Marvel universe, which I'm going to be calling the MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe. If you're not a Marvel fan, you don't know what MCU means, but it stands for Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I will be using that acronym throughout this podcast episode. So I just wanted to let you know, clarify that. Within all the MCU movies, Black Panther is in my top 5. It might even be in my top 3. I have to go through all of them again, but definitely top 5, if not top 3. And Black Panther is the 18th film in the MCU. So this was the 18th film that came out. It was directed by Ryan Coogler, and Chadwick Boseman starred as T'Challa, Black Panther. When it first came out, I saw it in the theater with my mom and my dad, and then my mom took my sister to see it later because she wasn't able to see it with us. But I saw this in the theater, and it was so incredible to watch. And I have seen, I would say, like 90% of the Marvel films in the theater. I think the only ones I didn't see were the first Iron Man, the first Thor, the first Captain America, and the second Iron Man. So I've only missed seeing 4 MCU films in the theater. Anyway, seeing Black Panther in the theater, it was such a different experience than seeing all the other films because, yes, we saw him and his portrayal in Civil War, but this was the first Black superhero MCU film, and if you've seen the film, you know that 99% of the people in this film are Black. And it's such an important cultural film, and it was such an important moment for the Black community. And I can only speak to this so much because I'm white. Even if you're not a person of color, this film was important. And this film was such a cultural milestone. And during the Dateline tribute, Robert Downey Jr. was interviewed briefly about Chadwick and his impact, and he said that Black Panther was the crowning achievement of the MCU, and I 100% agree with that. I think that this film, not only is it such an important cultural film and a cultural moment, but it's just an amazing film. And if you're somebody who has seen all of the MCU movies and you're a big Marvel fan like I am, you know that those films have a certain standard to them. They all feel sort of similar, but they all have their own style. And this film really had its own style and its own vibe to it. And it's such an incredible film. And I remember when it first came out, I was looking at reviews and looking at what people said on Twitter and you know, social media, and the worst review that I saw of this film was somebody on Twitter, and they said Black Panther was okay. That is the worst thing I have ever heard about this movie. Everybody that I know likes this movie. Everybody that I know said this was phenomenal, and that doesn't always happen with MCU films and even just superhero films. You know, I've had arguments and discussions with people about, you know, Captain America and the Avengers and everything. And, you know, people have differing opinions about those films. But objectively, I feel like this is one of the best, if not the best, Marvel film. It's not my number one favorite. My number one favorite is Doctor Strange. Just, again, I'll go into that when I have that Marvel episode, but objectively this is the best Marvel film, and I'm very sad that he won't be, you know, able to play T'Challa again. I'm going to talk later about the future of Black Panther because there's been some information right now, and I'll talk about what I think could happen or should happen with the films. But Black Panther received 7 Academy Award nominations, including a nomination for Best Picture. This is the first superhero film to ever receive a Best Picture nomination, and it was the first MCU film to win an Academy Award. At the 91st Academy Awards, it won for Best Costume Design, Best Original Score, and Best Production Design. In addition to those awards, it was nominated for, like I said, Best Picture. It was also nominated for Best Original Song, which was All the Stars, and Best Sound Editing and Best Sound Mixing. So if that doesn't just say how impactful and phenomenal this film was, you know, I don't know what does. But again, and this is something else I want to do an episode on, is awards, because I don't tend to agree entirely with nominations and award shows, but this movie deserved every award. It
definitely deserved Best Picture. You know, it was nominated for so many awards, a countless number of awards, and was also nominated at the Golden Globes that year for Best Motion Picture Drama, Best Original Song, and Best Original Score. It actually won 2 Grammys for Best Score Soundtrack for Visual Media and Best Rap Performance for the song King's Dead by Kendrick Lamar. It won a couple of NAACP Image Awards. It also won both SAG Awards it was nominated for, which were Outstanding Performance by a Cast in a Motion Picture and Outstanding Performance by a Stunt Ensemble in a Motion Picture. So it won both SAG Awards it was nominated for. And, you know, like I said, countless other awards it was nominated for and won for. Not only was this just so well received by audiences, but it was such an important cultural moment for the Black community. And again, I can only speak to this so much because I'm not Black, I'm not a person of color. But for kids in the Black community and minorities to look up on screen and see somebody who looks like you be a lead in a film, and that lead to be a badass superhero, and just to look up on that screen and to see all these people of color be glorified for who they are, and to see all those African cultures be represented on screen, and not in a way that's making fun of them and not in a way that's using them inappropriately, just seeing them be represented for who they are, and, you know, in this just incredible environment. That was just so important for all of those people. And, you know, I'm privileged because I'm white, and, you know, I've been able to go to lots of different films and see myself be represented on screen. But this was just such an important cultural milestone. And not only was this just such an important milestone for the MCU, but this was just so important for Chadwick's career. I think when people look back on him and his life and remember him, they'll remember him for Black Panther, for Jackie Robinson, and for Thurgood Marshall. But Black Panther, this character and his performance and his portrayal of that character will live on forever. And I think that it's just so sad that he passed away when he wasn't finished portraying this character. He had so much left to do with this character, and he had so much left to do in his life. When you look at his career history, he was very early on in his career. He was only 43 when he passed away. It's so sad that he was only able to portray Black Panther in 4 films. Was Captain America Civil War, Black Panther, and then Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. Those were the only appearances that he had as Black Panther. He will be giving his last performance as Black Panther in the upcoming Disney Plus series What If. This is going to be an animated show, so it will just be his voice. Basically, the premise of the show is going to be exploring what would happen if major moments in the MCU occurred differently. So, you know, like, what if Tony Stark decided to become a villain? Or what if Loki was given Thor's hammer instead of Thor? Or, you know, things like that. I'm just making up those examples. But so he's going to be giving his last performance as Black Panther through voice acting in that series. So that's going to be a 10-episode series. So that will be the last time we will be seeing him as Black Panther. I was reading that they were supposed to begin filming, or I guess early stages of filming or production for Black Panther, I think later this year or early next year. And nobody that he worked with, at least what I've read so far and heard so far, nobody that he knew other than his immediate family knew that he was sick. So the director and the writers and everybody were already writing the script and, you know, working on the upcoming franchise of Black Panther. And now that he's passed, you know, there's a lot of uncertainty about what's going to go on. I don't want them to recast, and I'm worried that they will, because if they want to keep what they already had in mind for the series and for the MCU with their plan, you know, if you're a Marvel fan, all the MCU films are connected, and there's certain things that kind of have to happen in different films to make sense in the whole. But if they want to keep what they've already written and, you know, what their plan is moving forward, the only way I can see that working would them to be to recast him. I personally can't think of anybody that would play him as well as Chadwick did, and anybody that I could think of has already been in Black Panther, so I don't really have any ideas for, like, who could they recast? And I don't want them to. The only other way I could see this happening is if in the film they kill him off. Like, obviously it would have to be like off screen, or they would have to do like that CGI thing, like they did with Princess Leia and at the end of Rogue One, where they like CGI his face onto the body of somebody else. And if you've seen like the last Hunger Games, the movie, they did that with one of the characters too. But as if they killed him off or something, and then somebody else takes over as Black Panther. The only person that I could see to take over as Black Panther would be M'Baku, who's played by Winston Duke. And if you've seen Black Panther, you know that Killmonger had all of the heart-shaped herbs destroyed, which the heart-shaped herbs are what make somebody able to be Black Panther. It gives them the power of Black Panther. So yeah, I mean, unless they had like a secret reserve of heart-shaped herbs that Killmonger didn't know about, nobody's really going to be able to be Black Panther. So I have absolutely no idea what they're going to do. I don't really have any information on that. But yeah, that's really the only two scenarios that I could see making sense. But I don't work for Marvel, unfortunately. I know people who know people that work for Marvel, but I don't work for Marvel. And I have absolutely no say in what's going to happen in these films, but those are the only two options that I could see. Also, potentially, I mean, this would be very odd if they did this, and I don't see it happening. But the only other way I could see this making sense would be if they made the next two Black Panther movies animated and just had a different voice actor. Again, that doesn't make really any sense at all, and I don't think they would do that. But yeah, those are my only three options. So if somebody from Marvel ever listens to this before they decide, which is like 0% chance that's ever going to happen. But yeah, I have some ideas. I want to talk about a couple of other roles that he's done. Besides What If, there is a new film that's going to be coming out, which will be his last performance, on-screen performance. His last performance in any capacity will be the What If series, but his last on-screen performance will be May Rainey's Black Bottom, and that movie is coming out in 2020. And then there's also another film called Da Five Bloods, which he plays a man named Norman. I believe that one is on, and that film came out on June 12th of this year on Netflix. That one's already out. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to add that to my list and I'm going to watch it. But yes, his last on-screen performance will be Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and it's in post-production right now. In 2019, he starred in a movie called 21 Bridges, which I really wanted to see that film. I don't know why I didn't go see it. It looked really, really good. And in the film, he plays an NYPD detective who shuts down all of the bridges in Manhattan, so that's why it's called 21 Bridges, so that he and the rest of his team can find these two cop killers. Again, I didn't see the movie. I really want to see it, so whenever I'm able to see that movie, I will definitely be watching that. Chadwick leaves behind such an important legacy for so many people. And everything that I've heard about him from people that knew him said nothing but great things about him. Said that he was such a kind person. He was inspirational. He always had a smile on his face. And, it's so sad when people who are so good and so pure-hearted pass away too soon. It's always sad. And I know that he's not the only celebrity or person who has passed away this year, but it's really just such an incredible loss. And this is the first big name MCU actor who has passed as well. And it really just leaves on so much uncertainty for the MCU and, for what's to come. And he definitely was not done with his career. Even though he was 43, he still had so many years left. And I'm sure that there were a lot of other projects that he probably was going to be a part of. And it's just really awful to see somebody who was so important to so many people pass away. Again, I was a big fan of him, and, I was very upset learning about his passing, and I think this is a loss that people are going to be grieving over for a long time. Chadwick was married. He was married to a woman named Taylor Simone Ledward, and he actually got married to her last year. They had been dating since 2015. He didn't have any children, but, he leaves behind his wife and, his family, and it's just really sad, and to think that he was living with colon cancer while he was filming Black Panther and anything he was filming from 2016 on, he was living with colon cancer and he was doing it all. And, to be somebody who was always seen as being happy and so kind-hearted and just giving such an incredible performance, but living with cancer, that's just so insane to me. And it really speaks to his character and the kind of person that he was. Chadwick Boseman will be remembered for everything that he stood for in the Black community and for the world. He played so many important characters and was just such an important figure for the community, and he will never be forgotten. That's everything I wanted to talk about in this episode. I just wanted to talk about Chadwick and his legacy and what he meant to the Black community and to the world. In the episode description, I'm going to leave the Marvel tribute that they did for Chadwick. For those of you who have not seen Black Panther or any of the MCU films starring Chadwick, I highly recommend that you do. They are incredible films, and just seeing him on screen and seeing his incredible performances is such a pleasure. I'm also going to be checking out the other films that he has been in that I have not seen yet, and I will update you in upcoming episodes on the future of the Black Panther franchise and whether or not they've made any decisions on how to handle it. I want to leave you with a quote from Chadwick. He said, "The struggles along the way are only meant to shape you for your purpose." I think that is a beautiful quote and incredibly powerful. That's it for this episode of Chat About That. I hope you enjoyed remembering Chadwick Boseman, and I hope you learned a couple of things about him, and I hope that you'll check out some of his films. As always, stay safe, stay classy, and I will chat again with you soon. Goodbye.